So we're in December, as you might call it, crunch time in the NFL season, where the contenders and the pretenders really start to sort themselves out. We've got 2 weeks left in the 2014 NFL season, and Week 15 was an interesting week for sure, as some teams stamped their place into the playoffs, and some teams did themselves a lot of damage in their pursuit of getting into the playoffs. One of the big stories of Week 15 actually came on Monday night, and it was the fact that John Gruden has re-signed with ESPN through 2021. And ESPN was congratulating themselves and patting themselves on the back. They've scooped everybody, and now they've kept Gruden for years, and they're all happy and giggly tits about it. Yet apparently they've gone giggly tits about a guy who was a head coach in the league for years, a Super Bowl winning coach for years, a guy who ran his drafts somewhat in Tampa, and he still doesn't understand how the NFL draft order is determined every year. He truly believes that 4 teams in the NFC South could have top 12 picks, even though the divisional winner would be a playoff team and therefore could have no worse than possibly the 21st pick, but I digress. Okay, so let's talk about the week that was, Week 15 of the 2014 NFL season. I'll start off with the winners. You got to look at the Patriots, the Broncos, the Colts, and the Cardinals. What did those teams all do? They all won, and they all clinched a spot in the playoffs. Before you win a Super Bowl, before you make it to a Super Bowl, before you can win a playoff game, you have to make the playoffs first. And for 4 teams, they did just that on Sunday, and that's a big deal. And out of those 4 teams, the Patriots, Broncos, and Colts all won their division, which is nice for them because that guarantees them a home playoff game. Still a lot to be determined in terms of seeding with the playoffs, but the first thing you got to do, you got to get in. And those 4 teams, hats off to them, they've made it into the dance. A third of the playoff field for the 2014 NFL playoffs has now been determined. Other winners, though, I got to look at the Dallas Cowboys. Props to them for being able to beat the Eagles. And now the Cowboys control their destiny in the NFC East and possibly control their destiny for getting a first-round bye into the playoffs. They got some revenge on the Eagles. They tried to give it away, but they broke out of their old patterns. They broke out of their old ways and found a way to win a second straight game in December, which if you're a Cowboy fan, for sure, you follow that team, that's something that just doesn't happen very often with Tony Romo at quarterback. But the Cowboys winning, they got marquee performances from their big-time players, and that's what you need come crunch time. I also got to give credit to the Buffalo Bills. After making Peyton Manning look not very good last week, they made Aaron Rodgers look as bad as I've ever seen Aaron Rodgers. They found a way to beat the Green Bay Packers, go to 8-6, keep whatever playoff hopes they have legitimately alive. The Bills have a shot, and at this point in time, that's all you can ask for. That's an impressive win, and there's back-to-back really impressive performances by that Bills defense against marquee Hall of Fame type quarterbacks. Impressive. And then we get to the losers, and I got to go to the Jets. I hate to pick on the Jets, but god damn it all, man. You are potentially in a position where you never know what could happen. You may end up with a number 1 or number 2 overall pick if you lose your last 3 games. It could happen. You might be able to get a real franchise-changing quarterback. So, of course, the Jets would finally decide now, when they're 2-11, that it's a great time to win a fucking game. Now probably assuring them that they won't be able to get one of those top 2 quarterbacks without having to make a significant costly move up the board, therefore meaning they will probably pick a defensive player in the first round of the next draft, and meaning they will be the same old fucking Jets. You got to look at the Cleveland Browns. They got shut out by the Bengals. That was bad. Johnny Manziel was terrible in his first start in the NFL. That was bad. What was even worse about it is the fact that they waited so long to go to Manziel, and they decided to give him his first start against a really good Bengals defense. Oopsie daisies. That wasn't a good idea at all. They needed to start Manziel, but it needed to happen a couple of weeks ago, so that way when he got to this point in time, he might be ready and better prepared to face the Bengals. You weren't throwing a rookie with really no playing time, for the most part, under the bus against a good Bengals team. You got to look at the 49ers, too. This was a team that I picked fucking to win the Super Bowl, and I'm not the only one. They're not even going to make the playoffs now. Just bad. 49ers showed themselves. They fell apart. They were mediocre. And then, obviously, my Bears, what more could I fucking say? Another primetime game, a third straight primetime game, and they were terrible. They were just god-awful. They didn't show up. They don't care. Their season's done, and they fucking know it. And I'm done with that fucking team and pretty much everybody involved with it. I mean, they got embarrassed. They had the Saints come into Soldier Field in December and dominate them. That's terrible. So let's talk about some of the stars then. Enough about those stupid Bears. Some of the star performances we got in week number 15. Like I said, I got to go with the Buffalo Bills defense as a whole. Again, this is a team that made Peyton Manning look bad last week. They made Aaron Rodgers look even worse this week. That's impressive shit. So as a team, as a defense, major props to him. Got to look at Drew Brees. At a time where his team, as bad as they are, and they are bad, has a chance to still win their division and host a playoff game at home in January. Drew Brees stepped up in a big way, took advantage of a crappy Bears defense with 29 for 36 with 375 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Big-time players make big-time plays and play big-time games at big-time moments, and that's exactly what Drew Brees did on Monday night. You got to go for Jeremy Hill of the Bengals, kind of being the star running back of the week. He was the only running back that had over 100 yards last week, as he had 148 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns. Now he's showing you why, even after drafting Gio Bernard in 2013, they drafted him in the second round this year. He is that every down back. He's a thumper. He's a force. And he brings a different element to that Cincinnati Bengals offense, and he helped lead them to a shutout victory over the Cleveland Browns. In terms of wide receivers, a couple out of the NFC East. Odell Beckham Jr., obviously, 12 catches, 143 yards, 3 touchdowns. This guy is incredible. He is what I thought he was going to be coming out of LSU. And then, obviously, I think you got to go with Dez Bryant, too. The Cowboys in recent years have a bad history in December, finding ways to lose games they should win, finding ways to implode. What happens to be able to overcome that? You need stars to have big-time plays, big-time moments in big-time games. And that's exactly what Dez Bryant did. 6 catches, 114 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He was a factor. He was a difference, maybe the primary difference, because the Eagles just had no answer for him. And now you look at the Cowboys, and they're sitting there in first place in the NFC East. They have a chance to control their own destiny, get a home playoff game, win the division, perhaps even get a first-round bye. It's performances like this by Dez Bryant that help make that possibility. And then you look on the defensive side of the ball, and you got to look at David Hawthorne for the Saints and his 3 sacks that he had against the Bears. I mean, they were in Cutler's face all night, and the Bears couldn't get any rhythm on offense at all. And for Saints defense, it has been bad most of the year. It was a really good performance for them when they really needed it. And then you got to go with Bakari Rambo. He was the difference for the Bills on Sunday against the Packers. And he didn't do much else except have 2 interceptions of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he was there in the right place at the right time, and he made the plays that made the difference. He really, really did. So, again, there's my winners and losers, my stars for Week 15 of the 2014 NFL season. Let me know what you thought about the week that was in the comments down below.